Welcome, everybody, to today's Grand Rounds. We have a wonderful presentation planned for you with our guest speaker, Bryarly McEachern. The title of our talk today is How Tantra Supports Wellbeing. There are widespread misconceptions in the West about how Tantra is all about sexuality or having more orgasmic lovemaking, but the truth is, Tantra is a holistic path of awakening our full potential. And that includes addressing all aspects of human well-being, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, sexual, spiritual, or relational. Bryarly will be sharing the fundamental ways that Tantra supports client well-being and transforms their lives. A little bit about Bryarly's background. She's a certified Tantra teacher and bodyworker, and her passion is to help people access more peace, pleasure, power, and purpose in their lives, transmuting inner lead into gold through the wisdom of Tantra and other integrative wellness modalities. And I'm going to turn it over here to Bryarly to tell us a little bit more about her specific experience and some of the really exciting things she has planned for us.
Okay, thanks, Kevin, for that intro. If you all don't mind, I'm going to start this the way I start every Tantra training, retreat, and workshop, which is just grounding into our bodies, reconnecting to self. I invite you to close your eyes and sit comfortably, lifting your chest, opening your shoulders, planting your feet on the ground. And I invite you to take a few slow, deep breaths. So you can inhale through your nose and then open mouth and exhale. Nice long exhale. And then inhale again through the nose. And sighing out, relaxing shoulders, relaxing arms and chest and belly. And with this next inhale and exhale, I invite you to make a big, loud sighing sound, as loud as you like. Inhale and exhale. Thank you. You can open your eyes. So my intention is to be of service to all of you on the call and everyone who listens to the recording. I hope that this talk is helpful for your work with your clients and also helps take down any misconceptions that you might have about Tantra or fears about Tantra. Dark path of sexuality is not at all that. So Kevin, where would you like me to start?
I think you have some pretty interesting experience in your background. If you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about who you studied with and how you got started on this journey.
Yeah, sure. So I'd say that my conscious spiritual journey started when I was about 15. I was living in Nepal at the time with my family, and then we moved to Cambodia, so both Hindu Buddhist countries. And while I wasn't studying with any teacher while I was there, I was surrounded by Hindu and Buddhist mythology and absorbing the devotional aspects of those societies that I was living in. And there's such a real focus on daily devotion to spirit, to living beyond the physical self or the ego self. And so I was certainly absorbing some of those concepts to begin with. And then I started reading books about Buddhism and learning, wow, I am not my thoughts. How incredible. I'm not my beliefs, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my body, I'm not even my breath. So what am I? And that big question loomed. And this desire to connect to that eternal self, the self that is not based in material form. So I started studying Buddhist meditation and went to Vipassana meditation retreats. And in my 20s, started practicing yoga. And that became a really helpful modality for me to work through depression in my 20s and anxiety. And just become more aware of what is the body carrying and how can I help the body process this life experience and all the stresses and the conditions thrown at us. And then I went through medical crisis for a couple years in my 30s. And as I was healing from that, what was still persistent was this very low sexual energy. And I thought, I really want to feel that sexual energy that I used to feel as a teenager in my early 20s. So I was Googling natural ways of increasing sexual energy, increasing libido, and the word Tantra came up. And so I gathered some Tantra books from the library and started some self practices like self massage, self touch rituals to help reconnect with my body in a sensual way. But I couldn't find a teacher in Ottawa. So that was just on the back burner in my mind of I'd really love to connect with a Tantra community, a Tantra teacher, and experience these practices in person. And it wasn't until about 4 or 5 years later, I went to Bali. I was kind of burnt out from my previous work and went to Bali at the beginning of the pandemic, and then there encountered 3 world-renowned Tantra teachers and started practicing Tantra and learning from them. So I spent the next 4 or 5 years learning Tantra and started teaching Tantra about 3 years ago. And I had already been teaching yoga, so it was a natural link because they both come from the same roots, Tantra and yoga. And one of my teachers says, actually, Tantra is the big mother tree, and yoga is a practice within Tantra. And breathwork, pranayama, is a practice within Tantra. Meditation is a practice within Tantra. So it really felt like this unifying of all the different experiences that I had been and modalities that I had been studying and practicing throughout my 20s and 30s. And it provided that missing link of, okay, yoga is great for body, mind, wellness, but it doesn't talk about sexuality. And so Tantra provided that missing link of experiencing my sexual energy as life force energy, experiencing it as a conduit to having really expansive, blissful states and a feeling of merging with the divine, and also really deepening my connection in partnership and bringing it to a much more nourishing and blissful place. So yeah, Tantra has become my passion, obviously. I wouldn't be teaching it if it weren't my passion. And I wouldn't be teaching it unless it were truly beneficial in my life. So everything I teach is whatever tools within Tantra have been very beneficial for me. And then I like to pass that on. So yeah, that's been my journey to Tantra. It's always an ongoing learning journey. There's always more to explore and expand through and other teachers to learn from. But yeah, I would say I have 3 primary Tantra teachers who are masters of the fields, who have been doing Tantra and learning and sharing Tantra for 20 to 40 years. So yeah, I'll end that there. And then if you have some questions, feel free to ask.
And by the way, anyone who's joined us today, feel free to drop in questions in the chat and I can facilitate asking Bryarly any of your questions. To get started, I would be interested to know, what are the majority of your clients looking for?
It's quite a variety. I would say that primarily women who come to me for Tantra bodywork and coaching sessions or into my retreats, they're coming often to overcome shame about their bodies, to reconnect with a real self-love, unconditional self-love, and also to, awaken sexual energy, increase libido, and find ways through which they can connect with their partner more beautifully in more nourishing ways. And then also the area around boundaries, learning how to heal the body from past trauma when their boundaries have been stepped on, and finding that inner voice of the body to really distinguish between their body's yes and their no. And within that container, they can feel safer in asking what they want in lovemaking or in life. So those are some of the main themes for the women who come. And also coming out of their head. Many women come to me saying, I have a desk job, I'm on the phone and the computer all the time. I feel very disconnected from my body. I'm really overthinking and I don't feel pleasure in sex or I can't reach orgasms. And I'd love to reconnect with my body and get out of the head. So those are the main themes, I would say. With men, it's also often one of the issues is they want to work on their sexual energy, their vitality, their life force. They want to experience prolonged orgasms without ejaculation. They might want to address erectile dysfunction. They too want to get out of their head into their body, or maybe they've had a porn addiction, which has prevented them from really feeling connected with their body or their partner. So trying to resensitize their body to pleasure and to touch and to this present moment experience with their partner. And I'd say that some of the most powerful work comes through helping people connect with their body through Tantra meditation practices and Tantra bodywork practices, which I can tell you more about if anyone is interested. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually have a question that came in that relates to that. The question is if you could share the importance of active meditations as opposed to sitting meditations in Tantra.
hmm Yeah, great questions. So in Tantra, we have many different types of meditations that we do. Some are passive meditations that you might be more familiar with, more like focusing on the breath, coming in, coming out, the space between the breaths to really help bring the calm down the mental thought processes and start to connect with the body, and also to start nourishing the nervous system. But the thing is, many people I hear in the West come to me and say, I suck at meditation. I just can't do it. I sit for 5 minutes and within 3 seconds, my mind is gone thinking about what I have to cook for dinner, picking up the kids, the conflict I've had with my husband. And so, what people in the West tend to respond better to, our lives are so complex. We have so much stress, so much busyness, and fast paced conditions in our life. We need to do active meditations, which help discharge a lot of the inner garbage, the inner stress from our nervous system through cathartic breath work, sound, movement, dance, shaking. And then after those active phases, the body is finally ready, the mind is ready to sit and observe in a passive meditation. Observe this inner stillness, experience this inner space open up where they can feel into the energy of their being. They can feel into the essence of who they really are, which is really, as Buddhist philosophy teaches, it's this pure awareness, pure expansive awareness, beyond the mind, beyond the ego, beyond the personality, beyond the identity. And that's where this feeling of liberation comes and the end of suffering, because so much of our suffering comes from the overactive mind and the excessive attachment we have to all the thoughts that are going on and protecting our ego, defending our ego. So active meditations are very useful. Again, they help dispel the stress. Oh, the cat's just about is going off on a cat outside the door. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's very useful technique to dispel stress from the system so that we can enter those beautiful, expansive, passive meditation states.
As you're talking about the cats at the door, it makes me think about how much of feline behavior is motivated by mating and dominance and all these kind of things, and how in our human lives we might lose sight of how much of our own motivations are driven by these kind of things that are underneath the surface. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I like that segue. Yeah, so I think we often suppress our instinctual nature in the modern day and our body-based instincts. And this is where Tantra can help us reconnect with our body-based instincts. Tantra always starts with the body. yes, it's a path through which we can expand our potential through all areas of our human beingness, our learning to work with the thoughts and the mind, learning to work through the emotions. But all of it starts with a body awareness, coming back to the body. What is our body feeling? What is it storing? What is it holding on to? And what are the messages, the intuitive messages coming from the body? And how can we prepare the body to be in a more natural state, more intuitive, natural flow? When we're really connected with our body, then stress can't build up in it because we hear the body going, ooh, tension over here. Let's do some shaking for 5 minutes. Like an animal that's just been chased by a predator. You can think of even your dog. After it's had a scary experience, it just naturally goes into shaking. And deers do the same. Humans, we're built to do the same, but we suppress those natural stress release instincts because it looks weird. We think it looks weird, or we have all sorts of judgments about how we need to control our bodies. Yeah, this is a part of Tantra, reconnecting with the body's natural way, the natural instincts, to keep it healthy, to keep it balanced. Mm. And sexuality is, of course, a very important natural instinct. And in Tantra, we see sexual energy as the most powerful part of our life force energy. If we are living in conditions where we are ashamed of our sexual energy, or we've been taught by parents or our religion to suppress the sexual energy, then we are blocking our very vitality, our very life force energy. Humans are created from the act of sex. So this is the seed of our life force. So if we're suppressing that, of course, disease sets in. Of course, mental disturbance sets in. So this is the Tantra view.
I wanted to hear what you had to say. I had done a podcast interview with Canada Research Chair in Women's Health, Lori Brotto. She's a professor at UBC. And she opened up a lot of questions, but medicine in the West, anyway, hasn't quite gotten to the answers. The major focus of her research is on low desire. That's why I had wanted to talk to her too, because so many of the people I work with, you remove the major chaos from their lives and they're really getting well. And then what is revealed is all this grief in a way, or desire that has evaporated or just hasn't been there. It actually gives me so much compassion to think, how is it to just exist for decades, disconnected from one's desire? Psychotherapy does a really good job of setting people up to reclaim desire. But Western psychology, because we don't touch people and we are a little bit disembodied, I think, in our training, it's changing. But I'm really curious about ways that Tantra traditionally has helped people reclaim desire and what it could teach psychotherapy. Maybe none of us will ever be tantric masters, but also there's huge problems that happen in psychotherapy. Both therapists and clients are disconnected from the realities of desire, or from like Kevin's acknowledgement that, yeah, there's so much of these vitality energies that motivate most of what we do. Really curious to hear you talk about desire.
Thank you. I love the question. Yeah. So how do we approach reigniting desire in Tantra? Yeah. So it's a multi-pronged approach. First, we have to address burnout, because people's lack of desire often is related to complete overload of their nervous system and burnout in their lives. So one of the pillars of Tantra is meditation. And meditation helps clients come to living less in their head and more in their senses, more in their body from moment to moment. So we teach people and really emphasize if you meditate for 1 hour in the morning, great. That's going to help calm your nervous system. But meditation is not made to be just a 1 hour practice on the mat. It's something to build through the whole day and integrate to the entire day. So when you're breathing, your awareness is on your breath. You're present and aware with your breath. When you are walking, you're present and aware with your feet moving, your knees lifting. You're really there in your body with awareness. When you're eating, you're not thinking about the 1,000,000,000 things you have to do. You're tasting the food, you're savoring it. Your senses start to come alive when you have meditative awareness. I think of meditation as presence and awareness. So if we are building meditation into our life, then we're coming to each thing we're doing with presence and awareness, bringing all our awareness to the tactile feeling sense of that experience. And that in itself, developing meditative awareness through your day, it goes a long way to reducing the stress that we have, because the stress is often rooted in the overactive mind. And so it helps reduce the stress. And then it also helps us enjoy our senses more. When we are in our senses, we feel life more, we taste life more. Life becomes more delicious, more nectar. This is why I call my company Earth Nectar, because I want to help people taste the deliciousness of this life on this planet. With every time we walk outside, can we really smell the scent of the pines? Can we really feel the softness and squishiness of the soil beneath our feet? These are ultimately, if your senses are turned on and tuned in, these are sensual, sensuous experiences that are enjoyable. So slowing down to experience meditative awareness is one big key piece for that, for reconnecting with desire and taking away some of the stress that results in burnout and lack of desire. Also, in lovemaking, for example, we take the same principle, the same idea into lovemaking. Desire awakens when we are more in our body. And it also awakens through working with our sexual energy. So we have, again, active meditations, different rituals we do to awaken desire, awaken sexual energy in the body. Desire is very interlinked with sexual energy. So if you have really low sexual energy, it'll be harder to connect with your desire. If you work on increasing your sexual energy through active meditations, through breath work, you'll feel your desire more palpably, more powerfully in the body. So that's part of it. And the other piece that I find really important is helping people get past the judgments they have, say, of their partner. Say they've been with their same partner for 40 years and they think they're bored with their partner. They don't feel much desire for the partner. The body has changed a lot. So what can they do to spark desire in their lovemaking? Okay, first, do an active meditation with your partner that involves this rousing of the sexual energy with breath rebreathing, with shaking, with dance, with catharsis. And then also come in with this attitude that my partner is divine incarnate. My partner is, if it's a woman, my partner is Shakti, is the feminine energy of the universe incarnate in this form. And when you start to see your partner that way, you don't go, oh, she's 10 pounds too fat, or, oh, her skin is sagging. No, you look into the eyes and you feel, wow, when I make love to my partner, I'm making love to the great feminine energy of the universe. So there's that mental shift of appreciation, towards looking beyond the physical form, because really Tantra is a path to awakening to this consciousness that we are not the body. The body is impermanent. It will come, it will go, it will grow ugly, it will die. But what is eternal is the essence of spirit, of consciousness within everybody. So that's one way you can also help people go past the lack of desire based on the physical form that's changed. And then, of course, tantric bodywork is helpful as well, because in tantric bodywork, when I'm giving tantra massages, I'm helping the client resensitize their body. As I mentioned before, people often feel numb in their body. If they've had a porn addiction, then they can't feel sensitivity in their body. So then the bodywork sessions help to awaken sensitivity in the body. And when it's an awaken energy within the body through, for example, chakra massage, different massage techniques to awaken the different energy centers in the body that might be blocked by trauma, by stress, etc. And then when that energy is flowing, desire naturally flows as well, the feeling of desire. These are some of the different ways.
It was great. Very well said. I love what you were talking about, how being more aware of our senses brings so much more appreciation for everything. Yeah. We have another question here. It says, I am a Buddhist practitioner and teacher and relate very well to your journey. The path of liberation from suffering in the Buddhist tradition is usually framed in terms of an ethical framework to refrain from doing harm, to refrain from taking intoxicants, speaking with kindness, and so on. One of the Buddhist precepts is around sexual misconduct and the precondition of a long-term commitment prior to engaging in sexual relationships. Can you say something about how Tantra approaches this question of ethics in sexual relationships?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for that question. So I mentioned the pillars of Tantra. I mentioned that meditation is one of the pillars. I'll tell you the 4 pillars of Tantra. So one is meditation. So we cultivate this meditative awareness such that we can really observe ourselves and what is motivating ourselves when we're connecting with somebody. Are we bringing our wounds? Are we bringing our traumas to, in this case, sexual relations, sexual interactions? If we aren't coming with a meditative awareness of what our motivations are, then we may cause trauma on another person. So meditation is absolutely a pillar. Before you work even on arousing all your sexual energy and power, you want to work on meditation, on being aware. A second pillar is love. So love, many tantric practices focus on drawing the sexual energy to our heart center and cultivating the qualities of the heart. Unconditional love, acceptance, patience, compassion, kindness, looking to others, what others' needs are. But also starting with ourselves, being compassionate with ourselves. A third pillar is devotion. So can we see this whole life is sacred? Can we see every moment, every food, every being, every plant is sacred? And can we bring this devotional attitude towards our life such that we are really respecting and honoring every person we encounter and all beings that we encounter? And seeing that this is a spirit journey. This is not a journey to fulfill my egoic desires. This is a journey to come out of egoic orientation and into these higher qualities, higher principles of living in service, living with purpose, living or aligned with our true purpose for being here on the planet, and living for expanding loving kindness towards others and bringing more peace into the world. And then a fourth pillar is trust. So can we trust that when things happen to us, they're actually happening for us, that there is this underlying force within the universe that's guiding us towards our growth? And it doesn't mean that you just let people chop you up like a vegetable and accept that. No, you still develop a strong sense of self and your needs and your desires and your boundaries. But it also means that you're not fighting and resisting against that which has already happened. And you're ultimately trusting life and trusting yourself, your higher self, to guide you. So in terms of ethics in sex, if you are on the tantric path, you're bringing these different pillars within your sexual relations. And that in itself is a strong foundation for having more harmonious and ethically based relations in sex. So in terms of rules around engaging with others in sex, Tantra doesn't set any rules about, oh, you have to develop a long-term commitment with somebody. No, you don't have to. You can follow your instincts of, if you meet somebody and you feel a strong connection with them, strong magnetic connection, you can enter sexual relations on the same day with that person. There's no right or wrong in that. It's more, can I, in this experience of making love with this one person, even if it's for one night, can I bring all of my heart, loving kindness, my compassion, my meditative presence, so they really feel seen, heard, held, understood, and really feel my presence, my honest, loving presence? Can I do that? Then this is a beautiful, nourishing experience for both of us. Can I really listen to what her boundaries are, to what his boundaries are, and honor that? And so, yes, lovemaking can be on any time scale. It can happen on any time scale. And we're bringing those pillars in to help guide our experience.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question?
I was just going to invite you, Andre, to, if you had a follow-up, go for it.
Thank you. So, for example, polyamory, does that fit within the tantric framework?
How does Tantra deal with polyamory? Yeah, I would say that it does fit in that Tantra does not exclude any possibility of human experience. So if there is a consensual desire for two partners to be polyamorous and both agree upon that and both want to explore it, of course, it's allowed. There's no rules against that. It can be a growth path. For some, it can be harmful for their relationship. It depends what they're both seeking to experience, whether it is consensual, and what they're intending to, how they're intending to grow through that experience. I think in general, it is, I've seen many couples say, we're going to explore polyamory because we feel we're going to grow spiritually through it. And then their relationship dissolves and it's untenable. They can't actually keep the commitment and devotion to each other through that experience. But in rare cases, it does work well, and it can go on for years in that way. But I would say that, yeah, from the Tantra perspective, if you are feeling that you need to explore desire or pleasure outside of your relationship to be happy or to be content, well, if you can't figure that out in your own relationship, first look there. Can you be a person grounded in meditation and loving presence and working with your sexual energy with your current partner and see how expansive the growth possibilities are within that container? Okay, if you've mastered that, fine, bring in another partner. But yeah, there aren't any rules set out in Tantra around how to navigate these situations. It's more, yeah, can we use these different pillars to help understand what's going on inside and communicate in conscious ways and really consciously navigate the experience that we're wanting to navigate if it is polyamory.
Thanks for your answer. I'm going to leave it here, but I just want to end by saying the question around polyamory had to do with this issue arising in the Buddhist community at large, where young people are saying the Buddhist precepts are too strict and we want to explore, blah, blah, blah. And the older guard who are closer to the sort of traditional ethical framework saying, no, you have to be in a committed emotional relationship before you engage in sexual relations. And it wasn't personal.
Polyamory can work well, and I've seen it work well when the two primary people within the relationship, when they are powerfully in love. If they're powerfully in love, powerfully devoted to each other, and great conscious communicators, it can work. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thanks for your talk. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Andre.
Thank you. That was great. We have another question in the chat. And yeah, okay. So would you recommend a particular sequence of meditations or meditation as a first exposure to Tantra?
hmm Yeah, I start almost all of my trainings and retreats with Kundalini Awakening meditation. I always present that on the first day because it's a very well-rounded, holistic meditation. It was created by one of my Tantra teachers, Satyarthi Pratik. And yeah, I think on the call, I saw Annie. Where's Annie? Yeah. Anne was on the call and there you are. I didn't see that. She's going to be actually teaching Kundalini Awakening meditation in the Ottawa community over the coming weeks or months. So if you want to experience that meditation, it's always best to experience it firsthand with the teacher who's received that transmission and that teaching and is really embodying that and has had a lot of experience with meditation. And then, yeah, I'll be really teaching online more or less. I do have a few workshops and trainings coming up. If you do want to experience more Tantra training, Tantra meditations, I've got a level 1 Tantra practitioner training coming up October 24th to 26th in Ottawa. And that really gives therapists and members of the community experience in these Tantra meditations.
If you don't mind lingering on that a little bit, can you talk about what that training process looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. I've developed this 3-level Tantra practitioner training. It's geared towards therapists, coaches, wellness practitioners who want to have some Tantra tools and Tantra wisdom in their toolkit to help their clients. The way I set it up is level 1 Tantra practitioner training. It's a 3-day program followed by a 21-day practicum where you practice, each week you practice 1 or 2 of the meditations that I've given. And that way you can really start to embody it, experience it, and then have authentic shares with your clients about how this meditation works and what it can transform in your life. And then all the students also do 1 facilitation within that practicum. So they facilitate to the group a particular meditation of their choice. And yeah, so I don't like to give too many details about what we cover in the level 1 because it's an organic process. The mystery is part of the excitement of the training. But just generally, we practice, certain meditations for awakening sexual energy, meditations to bring us into really centered presence within our body. We do interactions with each other, partnering exercises. They're non-sexual, but they help us connect at a deeper level. And they're practices that you can use within your own partnership. And then there's also a conscious touch, level 1 conscious touch activity or practice to help people use touch in a way that is healing, that is grounding, that is really nourishing. And this can be given, again, to maybe not clients if you're a psychotherapist and you have rules around touch, but for other wellness practitioners where touch is allowed and it can be given to your partner, etc. And then there's also practices to really awaken the chakras, to clear out the chakras. So if you understand what I'm talking about when I say chakras, those are the energy centers in the body. And we really need to have good energy flowing through our chakras in order for us to be balanced in multiple facets of our life. So yeah, that is the level 1 Tantra practitioner training.
That's great. Yeah, that gives an idea of how it goes.
Thank you so much for this, Bryarly. And if you want some water, we can hang out for a moment.
Okay, I'm just grab some water.
I'll formulate my question. I'm trying to be mindful of how I pose this question. As in many communities, including in the Ottawa psychologist and therapy community, we can all go look up in our college reports and in the news about very skilled, respected practitioners who at some point broke the therapeutic frame and violated the trust of it, whether it's a teacher-student relationship or a therapist-client relationship. And as a 3-decade practitioner of therapy, I know that sexual energy comes up in therapy. And the field is really skittish about acknowledging it. But then when there are violations, people are destroyed, both client and clinician, both student and teacher.
Mhm.
I am really curious just to hear what the wisdom of Tantra would have to say about those relationships, which are really sacred and create a lot of healing, but there's also a big power dynamic there. And when not conscious, there can be tremendous harm done. And I'm open to hear. I'm sure Tantra has teachings about this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Really, becoming a Tantra practitioner is walking the path of fire, because sexual energy is fire and it can destroy, it can damage people, it can cause harm, but it also can be the very source of vitality that we have. So, as Tantra practitioners or any practitioners using Tantric tools or practices, we need to be super, super aware of our body, of what our mind is doing when we're giving a session. So I'll give you an example. When I'm giving Tantra bodywork sessions, the teaching around that is when you are giving Tantric bodywork, you need, as best as you can, become hollow bamboo. That's the image we use. So hollow bamboo, you set the stage by creating an opening ritual where you ground yourself to the earth, you connect to the divine, and you ask, please give me support to be just a crystal clear channel for love, light, and healing energy to come through and guide my hands. And you have this, I'm setting my ego aside, I'm setting my desires aside. And yes, I might feel a little sexual energy also come into my body while I'm giving a session, but I don't indulge it whatsoever. That's the rule. You don't indulge it. There's no taking, there's no grabbing. You are here only to give healing energy, love through your hands. And so that is a very strong code of conduct in Tantric bodywork. You're not here to take, you're just giving healing energy. And then you set up the session such that client has filled out a client form where everything's explained, what kind of touch, what parts of the body are touched. For example, if there's genital touch, is it covered, uncovered? What would they prefer? Because the sarong can be covering the genitals, or you can even do the touch in the auric field and the energy field. So we give the client absolute choice as to how they want to receive the massage, the bodywork. And you can't change that. You can't go, oh, my intuition's telling me to press on their yoni more stronger or to insert my fingers. No. You follow the consent form, you follow the verbal agreements as well. That's how we draw boundaries around our tantric bodywork. And then the other thing is you don't get involved with students or clients. They're not to be your sexual partners. One of my teachers says, in his code of ethics, if that person has not been your student, has not been your client for a long time, and you come together, your lives come together, then you might explore a relationship if there's this strong draw towards each other. But you can never be with somebody sexually if they're your client or student. That's a big no-no for sure. Yeah, and a tantric circle, this is actually part of the medicine. It's not traumatizing your students. It's actually welcoming them to release bodily shame. So that's an interesting difference there.
I think this is back to Andre's point about ethics, right? There's an ethical framework from which you're operating, and there's a different ethical framework from which psychology and psychotherapy, as they're practiced here right now in 2025, West, are practiced. What you heard me or saw me doing was I was kind of laughing with Kevin saying, oh, you haven't seen some of the 70s sex therapy videos that I was shown when I was 22. It was before they developed ethical codes. Like the brain. It was a really serious question I asked, though, because there are people walking around who have had their boundaries violated by professionals. And I actually put the responsibility on my profession for having transgressed their ethical code. But there is also, I think, a way that our profession creates the problem by avoiding talking about sexual energy. And
Yeah.
to therapists who have to stay within their ethical code, but for themselves to know how to be more skillful with sexual energy within the frame of therapy. I do think that there is something that Tantra teachers could suggest to therapists who maybe don't have the scope of practice that a Tantric teacher would have. But sexual energy arises, therapeutic relationships, and how to relate to it in a way that is healing and not harming.
I would say just observe. Just observe. Oh, okay. I'm feeling arousal. I'm with my client. I'm feeling arousal. But it's just another sensation in the body. That's where the meditative presence and unattachment to following or grasping a certain experience, that's where that comes in. So just enjoy, right? Don't feel guilty or shameful about the fact that sexual energies are rising in you and you feel some arousal while you're with the client. You don't have to shut it down. You can just allow it to come. Don't feed it. You don't have to turn it into a story of, oh my gosh, I'm attracted to my client. What does this mean? This is a natural response of my life force energy. It is responding. That's okay. I'm breathing. I'm aware. But I don't have to do anything about it. It's just another sensation. It's just another internal experience. Yeah, it's neutral.
It's great. I want to invite anybody else to, if you have any other questions, we have a few minutes left here. Coming up to 2:00. Earlier on, I was thinking a lot about, you mentioned the presence of pornography in modern times, and it really made me think about the commodification of sex in modern society and the damage it can do to young people. And it really seems it depletes, it just cheapens the way we think about sex. I really liked what you said earlier about it's not just about orgasm and pleasure, it's really about the life force that drives a lot of our other motivations. How do we realign ourselves with those deeper aspects of tantric work? So much of society is just focused on the surface level, aspects of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Sex has been commodified and bodies have been objectified through the way sex is portrayed through porn, even through movies. And so the remedy within Tantra to that, the antidote to that, is connecting to the divinity, connecting in a devotional way to the sacredness of sex, the sacredness of our bodies. Our body is a temple within which divinity resides, and that is spirit. That's our spirit. And the genitals, in Tantra we call the vagina the yoni, and for men the penis is lingam. So the yoni and lingam, they are sacred places on our body. And we can't just jump into sex, penetrate, and wham bam, make it a mechanical act. That's missing 90% of the point of lovemaking and of tantric lovemaking. The lovemaking starts with deep connection, deep honoring of each other's beingness and being very present and there with our support, with our full energy, with our full attention. And so a beautiful, very simple way to start lovemaking with that intention is simply sitting cross-legged, knee to knee with your loved one, your beloved, and gazing into their eyes for a good 5 minutes. Really, the eyes are the windows to the soul. So if you just peer into the eyes, wow, without looking away, without fidgeting, just breathing together gazing into each other's eyes. Wow, all the judgment, all the conflicts start to dissolve as you bring this heart open awareness of, wow, the divine is sitting right here in front of me, incarnate. What magic, what a magical creation. And as you breathe and gaze and are in this meditative presence, then you start to feel, emotions are starting to arise. And things are starting to clear that have burdened you psychologically or emotionally. And your nervous system starts to rest and relax and feel safe and feel a sense of trust. And then you can even add a simple movement of your right hand to the heart of your beloved, and they put their hand on your heart, and you start to tune into this place from which love and unconditional love comes. And breathe. So it's this really slowing down, starting the lovemaking with this conscious presence with each other and this attitude of reverence, devotion, attention. That in itself helps as a big antidote to the approaching sex as a mechanical, let's get to orgasm kind of thing. Yeah. And then also really focusing on how sex is a sensual experience. So, for example, in lovemaking, giving the full body attention. It's not about the genitalia. Lovemaking is about caressing the entire body, the whole body is the temple. So, using light feather touch to the whole body of your beloved, letting them really receive this adoration through touch. And again, that idea of let my hands be healing, let this healing, loving energy come through my hands to my beloved, and caressing the whole body so that they feel the sensual awakening of their whole body and feel the sense of safety that, oh, he's not or she's not just trying to get something from me or get to an orgasm. It's this whole loving devotional process of honoring the entire body. And then, when penetration happens, even the man can say, may I enter? Having that question, may I enter? And the woman can decide if she's ready or not. That's a beautiful, honoring thing to do that, helps heal past wounds of feeling just like an object in sex, where my partner is trying to take pleasure.
All right. Really, thank you so much, Bryarly, for coming and speaking with us all today. I think for me, some of the concerns that are out there around people being disconnected and living online and all these things, I really feel like understanding the importance of tantric energy and all this stuff is really important, more important than ever. So thank you so much for presenting. And then I wanted to also allow you to tell people where they can find you or anything you'd like to promote.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, thanks for having me and great questions. I really enjoyed being here. Yeah, so if anyone's interested in looking at any of my programs or having private sessions with me, you can just go to my website. It's earthnectar.ca. So earth like the world and nectar like the part of the flower.ca. Or email me at bryarly@earthnectar.ca. It's the best way to get a hold of me.
Great. Thank you so much.